Hello everybody, my name is Brian Nunez. I'm the Losi brand strategist, and next to me is Frank Root, the category manager for all things performance. Now, it's no secret that Losi has a lot of performance vehicles under its brand, but also we focus on the scale side of RC cars. Now today we're going to go into the specifics of the Mini LMT, but we can't really go into detail without truly understanding the current LMT and kind of how this led to this. So Frank, kind of talk to me about some of the DNA, what went into this, and then we'll kind of segue into the Mini.
Yeah, so the Losi LMT, or the Losi Monster Truck, was developed by Chris Higa, one of our more experienced product developers, and he's been a fan of Monster Jam his whole life. And one of our goals at Losi is to be race inspired, to bring the things that we like in full-scale motorsport into RC, and obviously Monster Jam, Gravedigger, Monster Trucks were kind of an obvious path to go. So we wanted to develop something that was awesome in looks and performance. It has that scale look, so we knew it had to be solid axle. We knew it had to have a ton of power so that you could do big jumps, you could do awesome tricks, and you could look just like the Monster Jam guys on Saturday nights. And Chris brought that to life with the Losi LMT.
Now, what's good about the Mini is that we took a lot of that same exact DNA, right?
Absolutely. So the Mini truck basically is a smaller version and a lot more accessible version, lower price point, so that people can take their love for Monster Jam and bring it into RC, and a lot more people can do that. It still has an abundance of power. It can do backflips and wheelies and all the stunts that you'll see on a Saturday night at Monster Jam, and the same great looks with completely solid axle, powder coated frame and everything. So it really fits the part in terms of the performance and in terms of the look, just on a smaller scale from the LMT.
Yeah, that, and it's so much more accessible. From now you can have your mini Monster Jams in your driveway now, maybe even the living room if it's just a tad bit bigger than a standard living room, versus with this beast, it's just 40 miles an hour is a lot to manage in a small space. But this is now going to be the new buzzer, you know, the car that you get together with your family and friends in your basement, in your backyard, in your driveway, what have you. So with that, there's a lot of features and benefits packed underneath this body. Let's get into it with Chris Higa, what do you say? And let's kind of go into the features and benefits and what makes this hobby grade RC car what it is.
Yeah, Chris knows all the details, so let's get him in here and he'll make you even more excited for the product than we already are.
Awesome. All right, so now I'm standing next to Chris Higa, the product developer behind the Mini LMT, and I really have a lot of great questions for you, not only in your history, but also the product itself. But first, I want to give you guys a quick rundown on what comes inside the box when you purchase a Mini LMT. Going through these pretty quickly, you have 2 Spectrum items regarding registering your product and also some warranty information. Not only a really cool sticker, but in the back, if you register a Mini LMT and give us your email, whenever we have specific kind of information regarding the LMT, we'll send that to you. This is a really cool one that Chris threw in the box, and this is kind of a limited edition Ryan Anderson collectible card. And if you go to specific Monster Jam events, you can actually collect these with the other drivers. 4 AA's that we use with the transmitter. Your charger with the appropriate cable and adapter, so you can go straight to USB or the USB-C. And this is just a really simple plug in and play with the battery that's already included in the truck. If you have the old Mini batteries, an adapter you can plug into the truck and still use those older batteries with the EC2, not the IC2. A bind plug, a little multi-wrench for your wheels, and here's a cool one. But I'm gonna hold this to this cool little poster. And Chris Higa also worked on awesome option parts with TLR tune shocks, aluminum axle housings. If you guys want more information on this, be sure to check out not only Losi.com, but this same YouTube channel where we have videos on how to install these parts. Of course, your user manual, which gets you a good little quick start guide, any information you might need. But the really key piece of information is the exploded views in the back. So if you ever have any issues with your vehicle, maybe you accidentally jump it a little too high, some accidents do happen, and you can replace every single part on this vehicle. That's part of hobby grade, is you don't just use this. If it breaks, you throw it away. You always improve, you always fix, and you continue pushing not only yourself, but the limits of the vehicle. Next, the transmitter, which is really cool. This is a really clean, simple transmitter. Not only do you have steering rate, so by turning this knob down, it lets the car steer less. Let's say you're in looser conditions. If your car is kind of veering to the left a little bit, you have your steering trim, which is really cool. But the best feature of it all is the throttle limiting switch in the back. You can quickly switch this to 50% power, 75% power, and 100% power. If you're gonna hand this to somebody who's a little bit younger, maybe a little less experienced, flick this down to 50%, let them get used to it. It'll make you feel a lot more comfortable that they're not gonna have any issues with their vehicle. There's also another cool feature within the ESC we'll talk about, Chris, but before we get into that, let's start diving into the features and benefits of this RC car. First, we gotta talk about the bodies, right? Now, you have a long history, not just with the Andersons, but with Monster Jam, working at these events, sending trucks. I remember when I was still going to those events, you were there already. So I think not only are you the perfect person to be the product developer, but talk to me kind of about the Andersons and why did we decide to go with these officially licensed models?
Yeah, it's probably been about 20 years that I've been doing demos and different things around Southern California with Monster Jam. And I've been very fortunate to meet the Andersons, and they've always been very welcoming. But the one thing that always enticed me about them, they're avid RC fans. They will like to tinker and build things, and they just wanted something that was cool that they could play with and bash and be fun and fast. And
it just worked out, right? That they're super passionate about RC, but they're also the two most recognizable names within Monster Jam. Not only do you have Gravedigger, Dennis Anderson, who built a crazy legacy, you have Adams, who's running that truck, you have Teeny, who's now officially called Weston. We don't call him Teeny anymore. If you saw the product video, you know what I'm talking about. But then you have Ryan Anderson. Let's talk about Ryan Anderson and kind of his legacy that he's building with that truck.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan is probably the most progressive driver on the scene right now. I mean, you see people doing, I think a lot of tricks that they emulate now in the big trucks, they've learned in these little trucks. You know, when they backflip off of the containers and things like that, I think they first saw that with us doing Monster Jam type truck flips off walls.
Yep.
And it's just progressed from there, and those guys just blow my mind.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that, but we see that in multiple products where they kind of see that it's possible in RC and they go, we all wonder, like, I wonder if I could do that in my real truck. And Ryan always has these amazing stories of, you know, he was never given the PlayStations or Nintendos. He was given a Suzuki Samurai for, I think, his 14th birthday. So he's always had this amazing connection with the machine of a vehicle, and he's always been able to kind of learn his limits, but the machine's limits, because not only can he send it, which anybody can stab the throttle and send it, but to land it, to stick it, to save your equipment for 2 days events, that's a whole nother feat in itself. So great, now that we talked about kind of the licensed bodies, let's talk a little bit more about kind of the details of the bodies. I see some LED lights, I see a grill on Son of a Digger that's actually injected molded, right?
Yeah, the grill is like injection molded and is also electroplated for chrome to match its larger counterpart.
Awesome, and those LEDs just turn on as soon as you turn on the car?
Yes, they're plugged in, so as soon as you turn the car on, the lights go on. They have red lenses for the Gravedigger, blue lenses for the Son of a Digger.
Perfect. I remember, like, you know, when Dennis Anderson was still driving Gravedigger, that's how they started the party, is you heard that song turn on, you saw those red lights turn on, and this thing, you're like, oh, it's on, baby.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then what about those tires?
So the tires is basically, these are modeled after the most current BKT tire that they're using. So it's a much lower cleat profile. You'll even see the side lug detail in there. So we tried to make sure that we got everything down to the T.
That's perfect. And what's crazy that I discovered too is while working with BKT is the Monster Jam guys, they obviously used to use these tractor tires, but they've gotten so popular, these trucks are getting so wild, BKT actually makes specific tires for them that are lighter, have a different profile. It's less aggressive on the hardware since it's lighter. It's so crazy how just one tire can make such a big difference.
You know, the amount of work and effort that they used to have to go to, I think BKT really helped them as well in just being able to pick a tire that's easier for them to work with, easier on the trucks, and works better.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, when you see those guys pushing these tires, loading them into the trailer, that's a whole nother feat in itself. Now, to go into the next features and benefits, I'm gonna grab this truck here. which I took the body off of, because you truly can't appreciate what's underneath this thing until you take the body off. So we got a fully molded cage, driver in here with the safety kind of restraint system. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, we took a lot of the things out of the larger LMT, and we said, hey, the scale detail, we like that into that. So if we can incorporate as much of that into the smaller version as possible, that was really our goal, to get that overall look, especially if you took the body off, that it still looks like a monster truck.
Now, one of the kind of things that we've learned is people appreciate this in the cage, but they also like, man, I love it, but it also makes it hard to work on. But you did your homework, because once we turn this here and these, bam, easy peasy. Now you have easy accessibility, not just to do your battery swaps, but to also work on the vehicle as well, which was super creative.
Yeah, the flip top cage really makes the access a lot easier, and it flips all the way open. So it's easy access to your battery, the 2-in-1. It just makes the vehicle so much easier to work on.
Perfect. Now I noticed this back here didn't work or didn't move, but that's for an actual, it serves a purpose. What's that doing for?
Yeah, so we make a wheelie bar in the back. It's actually a 2-position wheelie bar, so you can adjust the angle of your wheelies a little bit. But that allows you to just be able to ride wheelies for days.
That's
I
awesome.
mean, these things will wheelie. If you get the right traction and the right balance, you'll go all the way down the street.
Yep. Now, one of those hidden features too that most people don't realize, but you'll see it in the product video, is that the way that the body and the tires are positioned is you can actually hold an endo, and you'll actually see Ryan Anderson himself do that in the product video. So if you haven't seen that, be sure to check out that YouTube channel and click on that. Now, we talked about kind of a lot about the looks, the tires, the roll cage, the officially licensed Gravedigger and Son of a Digger body. Let's go into what makes this thing perform, because that's what Losi's about. Not only do we do scale, but it has to perform just like the real thing as well. So let's start with the shocks. There's a lot of people just by looking at these kind of just think they're standard shocks, but there's a lot in here.
Yeah, it's a, they're independent coilover shock, oil filled. There's different spring rates front and rear, just to compensate for that. It's a adjustable collar, so you can adjust the ride height if you're running different bodies and things like that, just to compensate for the weight. So, we tried to make this as tunable as possible. Also, you have multiple adjustments to move the shock mount forward or back, up and down, to also change that as well for tuning.
Perfect. And I think that's such a key thing. I mean, tires are crucial for traction and handling, but shocks are next in line in my opinion. And the fact that you can change the oil, you can change the spring, you can adjust the tension on the spring, and then the shock angle, you have so much kind of a broad window to not only tune your car for your specific track, your specific kind of stunts you want to do, but again, it kind of just goes back to speaking, especially for the younger demographics. They learn the same exact thing that the technicians and the mechanics are doing on the big trucks, dampening, spring rates, all this stuff, which is amazing. Perfect. Now let's go into the solid axle. I know that when we originally developed the big LMT, we had to be a solid axle if you want to be legit. And we didn't, skip that part on this too. We have a complete solid axle, correct?
Yeah, complete front and rear, the solid axles. We went to a 2-piece design axle, so it makes it a little bit easier to maintain as far as just for the durability of the axle. And yeah, it's basically designed to look just like the Monster Jam housings.
That's perfect. And it looks like, so these rear kind of lockouts are different, and we will have different option parts of those as well.
Yes, the lockouts right now, we're sticking with the 0 degree, but the front cast box we will have a 0 and a 5 degree to adjust kind of a little bit of the steering feel. But then you'll also be able to have optional parts for all of the 4-link mounts and the suspension mounts and things like that.
Again, wow, you like caster, something that most people don't know, but yes, we involve caster, Ackerman, all these things into these awesome hobby-grade RC cars. So we talked about the suspension, the axle. I think next it's time to talk about, again, something that may be easily overseen, but the way we design this is there's 2 aluminum, not plastic, aluminum plates that are not, but we went up a level by powder coating them to match and just kind of give you more scale details. But yeah, talk to me about some of the features of kind of the aluminum plates and what did that do for the design and the durability?
Yeah, the twin vertical plate design in a monster truck like this makes it extremely durable. Just the way that the load forces go through everything, the plates themselves take so much of abuse. And I think, Brian, the first time I showed you these, you looked at the blue and you thought the plates were plastic. and I said, no, they're powder coated. And you're like, wow. They did an amazing job matching the colors so that it looks very seamless and things like that. But it just adds, like I said, it makes it a very easy design to work on for us, but maintain a ton of strength.
Awesome. One thing too, just talking to strength that you just mentioned is we put metal where it counts in our cars, right? You can't make everything metal, everything durable, because then something has to give. But there's certain things that need to be metal to kind of control that torque, to handle that torque, all the flips. We talked about the actual twin plates, but we also see aluminum links. Are these metal or aluminum yokes? Talk to me about kind of where the metal is and why we put it there.
Yeah, the yokes in the drive shaft seem to take the most abuse. It's just for the durability and the load and the wear factor, the metal yokes just held up so much better than a plastic composite yoke. The 4-link bars, they just, to get the look, they have to be metal. I mean, they just, if you want to have that next level, that's kind of where it needs to be.
Sure. And then as people upgrade or they want to upgrade to Losi or TLR tune parts, again, we'll have aluminum housings, all the proper spindles, lockouts, and whatnot. So this is not the limit for you. You can go so much more than this. Now, as I'm rotating this, I spin this way, this spins that way. That means these things have differentials in them, right?
Yes, they have. The axle housings have differentials in them to help the car steer and track, but there is a locked center. So there's not a diff in the center of these, but they do still maintain our cush drive system that was developed in the larger LMT to protect the drivetrain.
Awesome, good point. So differential for those that are new, not only to RC, but maybe even just automotive terms in general. What that allows you to do is as you go through the corner, this tire is going to spin at a much higher rate than this one is. Instead of them being locked where the car wants to drift or be a little more skatey, it's one of those things that we do to kind of increase the performance in it. And like Higa mentioned, there's not a center diff, it's locked out. So if I spin this, the front ones also spin, but that also performs better in freestyle, right?
Yes,
so we kind of do that intentionally.
Yeah.
Now that we've covered to that, we talked about kind of the looks, how durable it is. And there's a reason why we had to make it durable, because the power this thing has, right? So talk to me about the system, how easy is it, how simple is it, and what is it capable of doing?
Yeah, so we went with a 380 sized 25 turn brushed motor. It's capable of running a top speed of about 14 or 15 miles an hour right out of the box. And for a truck in this size and in a solid axle, it's actually very, very quick. The power delivery is super smooth. So like you pick these up and you can do some of these really cool tricks almost easier than with the big truck.
Nice.
So it's, the 2-in-1, everything is nice and concise and compact, where you've even got plug mounts that hold the IC2 plugs in, so you're not worried about where the wires are going if they're getting caught and stuff.
Yeah, it makes it super simple. And kind of just to run through the battery as well. We got a LiPo battery that comes included. It's very simple. Plug it into your charger, let it charge. With the smart technology, you don't have to worry about anything really. Plug that in. The receiver and the ESC is in here, but one thing I definitely want to mention is kind of this different throttle profile that we have options. Normally on RC cars, you go forward and then you have an option for a brake, you let go of the brake and then reverse engages. Yeah. However, when it comes to doing wheelies and stoppies and being able to balance it, you need those to be super direct. So all you need to do is switch these jumpers, right?
Correct. There's two jumpers in here. There's a jumper for the battery that's either LiPo nickel metal hydride, and there's also a jumper that gives you the standard forward brake reverse, and then also when you move it goes from instant forward to reverse.
Which makes it super easy because, if I'm going racing, I want to have that brake in there, be able to go in the corner, tap my brakes, and not have it go into reverse. But when it's freestyle time, it's so simple just to switch a jumper instead of having to reprogram it, do all this sequence, switch the jumper, and now I'm in freestyle mode, which is really cool.
It allows you to do those moonwalks and stoppies, and you'll feel like you're amazing.
Again, that's our job, right? Is we want to make you feel like Ryan Anderson. We want to make you feel like Tyler Meninga or Adam. So, perfect. Well, I think that's a quick, good overview of kind of the features and benefits. We talked a little bit about the option parts and all that stuff. If you want more information, be sure to check out Losi.com or YouTube. Anything else you want to mention, Chris?
Oh, I mean, like this project has been awesome. You know, where I think I probably have had more fun with these than the big ones.
Yeah.
So you can go terrorize your house with these things, and they're awesome.
That's what I'm looking forward to. Grabbing my nephew, setting up some cones and some jumps in the driveway, and just having endless hours of fun. Well, Chris, thank you so much for taking the time and walking us through this. Thank you guys so much for taking the time and watching this video. If you have any questions, comments, please feel free to drop them below. If you want to check out more content, check it out here on Losi.com or go to Losi's YouTube. Thanks, guys. We'll see you out there.